Hello, Sonia. You're looking very cheerful and bright today. Uh,
Well, thank you, Leonid.
well, I hope
I
I'm
wish
kind
I
of.
would say the same.
Well, okay. Do you mean that I'm not looking that cheerful or bright? Okay, I'll
I'm
try to.
sorry, but I know it's because you're always working too much. I
Okay,
know.
I'll try to match it
Don't worry.
with some content performance. Yes. Okay. So what shall we cover today?
Well, we have been talking a lot about parenting, right? About different types of mindsets, but I thought it was time to bring something more practical to families. Something like what they can do in their daily care.
Oh, absolutely. That's obviously a good point. You see, in American sports, there is this sort of uh, distinction, which is called the inner game and the outer game, right? So where, especially when it comes to the, like high-level performance, the whole message goes that there is only so much of the outer game that you can achieve by just trying to do it. It's actually critical to get your inner game, right? And that's where the whole parenting thing comes in, and that's why I believe that talking about the mindsets and the bigger picture and how you see yourself and the integration, what are you actually trying to achieve and what are the true values there, that's really critical. But of course, at some point, we have to start bringing in the elements of the outer game, right? So you see, we can't stay on the inner side all the time. And in that respect, yes, I believe it's a quite convenient way of putting the domains there is saying, well, parenting, it's your total parenting experience, including yourself, including all the other contexts and so on. And then the next level is care. So care is that daily living. And what are the basics and essentials that you do for your child in terms of providing for that daily living, including everything like feeding, hygiene, and so on and so forth, and what could be coming together with it. And then finally, we then and only then move to the matters of rehabilitation and therapy and like some dedicated time budget that goes in that way. And I'm really a big fan of this aspect of thinking about it in terms of the time budgets. So parenting in that respect, it's pretty much like a total time budget, right? So how you, because your child is with you one way or another. He's inside, right, in your heart, guts, mind, 24/7 without any interruptions. So that's the total connection. And then we move on to the issues of care, because care is the things that you do anyway, right? So you see, that's a certain time budget that is allocated anyway. So you, in any case, whether you looking whatever therapies or whatever actions, teaching, schooling, whatever you're doing for your child on the next level of more dedicated time budgets, you have those basics, right? Your child needs to be fed, your child needs to be taken care of, your child needs to be put to bed, your child needs to go through whatever teeth brushing and hygiene and all these other things, right? So that's the daily care. And now, probably the main message that I want to bring through this is to say that it's care matters most. Care matters more than dedicated rehabilitation. Because in terms of the integration into a child's fabric of life, in terms of the total regularity, consistency, and overall proximity to a child's life, care is the most intimate thing. It's the closest and the most intimate thing. And if you take the total time budgets that go for care are really large. So in that sense, this is really the key transition that I would invite the parents to integrate and go through, that it's not the care servicing the rehabilitation or schooling, but it's actually the other way around. It's your care which has the greatest potential for your child's learning, for your child's development, for your child's evolution, whether it's emotional, intellectual, physical, metabolic, sensory, and so on. So it comes through care. Whilst rehabilitation, as the dedicated time budget, adds the additional next level which has to be embedded into the system of care that you build. So that's really, for me, is the most important transition and the most important understanding, because also you realize in that sense that once you take it that way, it also changes the roles, right? Because if we speak about rehabilitation first, or therapy first, or schooling first, right? So then the central figure in that process is somebody from the outside. It's some kind of expert who either has to do it for you, and your part of a parent is just to bring that, a child of yours into the hands or whatever, into some whatever other magical skills of the external expert, and they will do it for you, right?
Yeah.
Fact is, you have to realize those things alone, they have very, very, very little of the long-term upside if the care system is not built. And on opposite, it's the care system that builds those compound interests. And then if you have those compound interests built, then you can have those extra boosters and pushers and some specific things which indeed can come from the external persons, external experts and so on, but they are the ones who belong to the second tier. You are the epicenter, you are the person in charge of the care, and it's care that is the source of everything important and good happening to the child. And unfortunately, this is not
do you think we could, how can we improve the care?
Well,
because that's like the logic question.
Of course, that's a logical question, right? So you see, the first thing is to stop thinking of care in the super utilitarian way, right? So what is a utilitarian way, right? Utilitarian way is that when you're looking for outcomes, right? So what is the outcome of changing the diaper? Well, wiping the butt and actually putting the diaper on. That's the essence of, that would be the utilitarian approach to care, right? What would be the utilitarian approach to, I don't know, teeth brushing, right? So you say that will be kind of cleaning the teeth in the dentist allocated amount of time, right? What would be the utilitarian approach to feeding? Well, put the calories and the food in the shortest reasonable time available so that you can do something important, right? So that's how most people see it. Well, let's feed because we are late for whatever, for speech therapy, or let's kind of get this diaper changed fast because we have this, I don't know, horse riding session, right? Or let's wake the child up in the morning and rush all those things because we have to go to school. The school will give us essential knowledge and all the other things because there are experts there and there are other children and all these things are important and so on. So that's really the most misleading thing, because care as something familiar, systematic, intimate, this is where you come closest to your child. And this is where, on the practical side, you really have to see it in like three different ways. I mean, three different levels. So level one is your contribution, right? So that's what inevitable part, that external component that you provide, right? The child can't wipe the bum, you have to wipe the bum for them, right? Then there is a component of the participation, right? Participation is what and how they can participate in this activity. And the third level is the total context. You know, what starts, what happens before, what happens after, what kind of settings you have for those episodes of care, what is the total, you know, mindset and actions that you associate with it, and so on and so forth, right? So that would be the context. So, but first point, participation. I mean, I'll take the mid one, right? Because that's the one that has, especially in the beginning, right, it has probably the most detrimental effect on the efficiency, on the utilitarian outcome, right? So, you know, if a certain bowl of pureed food takes you like, whatever, if it's a 300, well, 400 grams milliliter bowls, right, and then a single spoon is 10 milliliters, right? So basically it takes 40 spoons to down that bowl into the child. And you...
That's half an hour, easily.
That's it. But even if it's half an hour easily, right? So you see, you as a person who is doing it, and you have done it, you know, let's say for countless numbers of time, you develop some good efficiency, right? So you see, just can catch the moment when the mouth is open, then, you know, let's say just like throw it in, like close the mouth, you know, wipe it in, and then, you know, the next spoon, the next spoon, the next spoon. So because that's the whole idea, that it has to be some utilitarian outcome. The child needs food, so we can get something useful out. And the moment the child starts coming with participation, because he's slow, he's playful, he's whatever, then the effectiveness and the efficiency and the utilitarian value of the process dramatically goes down. And then, you know, your context of scheduling, right, because you have plans what's going to happen afterwards and so on, that also goes down. So, and that's why a lot of parents, instead of actually saying, oh wow, there is a participation, there is, you know, really a loop of response here, something that you actually have been looking for in all sorts of these activities, right? They just keep banging through, or even worse, they get like stressed, upset. I mean, you know, we are going to be late, you know, eat, you know, because also having the unfinished bowl is also bad, right? So that's really the critical mistake. Nobody pays attention to how it's working. Nobody pays attention to those moments and timings when the child is trying to participate. Nobody is actually tracking what kind of evolution is happening there. Nobody is setting and pre-designing the opportunities to increase this participation, because it's still going to be slow, right? And so on. So all these factors are not happening when you are set on the utilitarian outcome. And especially with your day typically being so packed and, you know, really stuffed to the maximum with the potential like plans and actions that you have to do, because, you know, especially as a mother, right, you always have a plan, right? So what's going to happen next, right? So you see, we have a plan. Okay, now we're eating, then we have to, even if it's the plan between two of you, right? So then we're going to sing, or then we're going to, I don't know, like go for a walk, or then we go to, so there's always a plan. And then if the child starts kind of being too much participatory in one way or another, what happens? It's interfering with the plans. So,
and in that case, we should also give them the opportunity to just relax, right?
Well, that's, again, of course, that's another part, right? So that's a sub-component of the participation, right? Not just stuffing the periods, but actually accepting the fact that has to be, that this is like this is the wave. Activity, neutral phase, activity, neutral phase, activity, neutral phase. So even if the child, let's say you're trying to bring the spoon and the child is not kind of cooperating right at that moment, it's not the detrimental effect to your, you shouldn't be seeing it as a detrimental effect to your feeding process, right? You should be looking at it as another aspect of the participation. So if we just sort of wrap it up as that first introduction of the idea, this is really the critical thing. It's understanding that care is absolutely central. You already have the time budgets allocated for it. You already have experience and, quality performance within it. This is where you know your child's best, but it's essential to get the right system. Is actually what is the most valuable part there is the participation of the child. So this is the most important contribution to the development, which trumps any kind of external sessions with whoever therapists, the best experts in the world. Because the best expert in the world about the development of your child is your child himself or herself. If they are showing the willingness to participate, this is something to celebrate, build, develop, and so on. This is the huge thing. And it's not only the positive participation, like doing everything how you want them to do, right? But it's actually exploration, making mistakes, doing pauses, doing phases, and so on. So that's really, because all of those are the components of engagement. And that is really the key point. Engagement and participation. That's the secret for making the care process and those hours that you spend on it, instead of being the routines and kind of just the things to be fast forwarded as soon as possible, for becoming the essence and the heart and the engine of your entire developmental facilitation process.
I think that was very, very clear and enlightening. Thank you once again.
So we have more things to continue in this line, right? Cheers.
A lot more. Yeah. See you soon.